Hello, hello. Okay. Not sure if anyone's here yet, but in case there are, I would like to inform you that I will be beginning the stream in, I suppose, 5-10 minutes or so. Yeah, because I am not done reviewing the stories that I'm going to read today. Hello, Jestilins. Not done reviewing the stories yet. So, hello, Edward BTQ. Welcome to the stream. Right now I'm still reviewing the stories that I'm about to be reading for you guys today. So I think I will start in a few minutes or so. How am I? I am feeling very, very good. Thank you very much. Hope you guys are having a nice day as well. I caught up on some sleep last night, so I'm feeling very energized right now. It's been raining a lot these few days, so I got to wear my rain boots, and that was nice. I really like my rain boots. Anyway, so I was going through the stories that I was planning to read this stream, and I realised that one of them contained a rather offensive slur, so I will have to skip that one. So I will be beginning with The Elephant's Child, and after that I will move on to the next story, which I haven't read yet, so I might have to take a break in between stories just to make sure that the next story isn't offensive or anything, and to just double check on whether I know how to pronounce the words and try not to make blunders, I suppose. Alright, I suppose it's about time to begin with the first story. So let's go. The Elephant's Child. In the high and far off times, the elephant, oh best beloved, had no trunk. He had only a blackish bulgy nose as big as a boot that he could wriggle about from side to side, but he couldn't pick up things with it. But there was one elephant, a new elephant, an elephant's child, who was full of satiable curiosity, and that means he asked ever so many questions. And he lived in Africa, and he filled all Africa with his satiable curiosities. He asked his tall aunt, the ostrich, why her tail feathers grew just so, and his tall aunt, the ostrich, spanked him with her hard claw. He asked his tall uncle, the giraffe, what made his skin spotty, and his tall uncle, the giraffe, spanked him with his hard hoof. And still he was full of satiable curiosity. He asked his broad aunt, the hippopotamus, why her eyes were red, and his broad aunt, the hippopotamus, spanked him with her broad hoof. And he asked his hairy uncle, the baboon, why melons tasted just so, and his hairy uncle, the baboon, spanked him with his hairy paw. and still he was full of satiable curiosity. He asked questions about everything that he saw, or heard, or felt, or smelt, or touched. And all his uncles and his aunts spanked him. And still he was full of satiable curiosity. One fine morning, in the middle of the procession of the equinoxes, this satiable elephant's child asked a new fine question that he had never asked before. He asked, "What does the crocodile have for dinner?" Then everybody said, "Hush!" in a loud and dreadful tone, and they spanked him immediately and directly without stopping for a long time. By and by, when that was finished, he came upon a cola bird sitting in the middle of a wait-a-bit thorn bush, and he said, "My father has spanked me, and my mother has spanked me. All my aunts and uncles have spanked me for my satiable curiosity, and still I want to know what the crocodile has for dinner." Then the cola bird said with a mournful cry, "Go to the banks of the great grey-green greasy Limpopo River, all set about with fever trees, and find out." That very next morning, when there was nothing left of the equinoxes, because the procession had proceeded according to the president, this satiable elephant's child took 100 pounds of bananas, the little short red kind, and 100 pounds of sugar cane, the long purple kind, and 17 melons, the greeny crackly kind, and said to all his dear families, "Goodbye, I am going to the great grey-green greasy Limpopo River, all set about with fever trees, to find out what the crocodile has for dinner." And they all spanked him once more for luck, though he asked them most politely to stop. Then he went away, a little warm, but not at all astonished, eating melons and throwing the rind about, because he could not pick it up. He went from Grahamstown to Kimberley, and from Kimberley to Karma's country, and from Karma's country he went east by north, eating melons all the time, till at last he came to the banks of the great grey-green greasy Limpopo River, all set about with fever trees, precisely as the cola bird had said. Now, you must know and understand, best beloved, that till that very week and day and hour and minute, this satiable elephant's child had never seen a crocodile, and did not know what one was like. It was all his satiable curiosity. The first thing that he found was a bicoloured python rock snake curled around a rock. "Excuse me," said the elephant's child most politely, "but have you seen such a thing as a crocodile in these promiscuous parts?" "Have I seen a crocodile?" said the bicoloured python rock snake in a voice of dreadful scorn. "What will you ask me next?" "Excuse me," said the elephant's child, "but could you kindly tell me what he has for dinner?" Then the bicoloured python rock snake uncoiled himself very quickly from the rock, and spanked the elephant's child with his scalesome, flailsome tail. "That is odd," said the elephant's child, "because my father and my mother and my uncle and my aunt, not to mention my other aunt the hippopotamus and my other uncle the baboon, have all spanked me for my insatiable curiosity. And I suppose this is the same thing." So he said goodbye very politely to the bi-coloured python rock snake, and helped to coil him up on the rock again, and went on, a little warm, but not at all astonished, eating melons and throwing the rind about because he could not pick it up, till he trod on what he thought was a log of wood at the very edge of the great grey-green, greasy Limpopo River, all set about with fever trees. But it was really the crocodile best beloved, and the crocodile winked one eye, like this. This is my best attempt at a wink with a PNG. "Excuse me," said the elephant's child most politely, "but do you happen to have seen a crocodile in these promiscuous parts?" Then the crocodile winked the other eye, and lifted half his tail out of the mud, and the elephant's child stepped back most politely, because he did not wish to be spanked again. "Come hither, little one," said the crocodile. "Why do you ask such things?" "Excuse me," said the elephant's child most politely, "but my father has spanked me, and my mother has spanked me, not to mention my tall aunt the ostrich, and my tall uncle the giraffe, who can kick ever so hard, as well as my broad aunt the hippopotamus, and my hairy uncle the baboon, and including the bi-coloured python rock snake with the scalesome flailsome tail just up the bank, who spanks harder than any of them. And so, if it's quite all the same to you, I don't want to be spanked any more." "Come hither, little one," said the crocodile, "for I am the crocodile." And he wept crocodile tears to show it was quite true. Then the elephant's child grew all breathless, and panted and kneeled down on the bank and said, You are the very person I have been looking for all these long days. Will you please tell me what you have for dinner?" "Come hither, little one," said the crocodile, "and I'll whisper." Then the elephant's child put his head down close to the crocodile's musky, husky mouth, and the crocodile caught him by his little nose, which up to that very week, day, hour and minute had been no bigger than a boot, though much more useful. "I think," said the crocodile, and he said it between his teeth like this, "I think today I will begin with the elephant's child." At this, oh best beloved, the elephant's child was much annoyed, and he said, speaking through his nose like this, "Let go! You are hurting me." Then the bi-coloured python rock snake scuffled down from the bank and said, "My young friend, if you do not now immediately and instantly pull as hard as ever you can, it is my opinion that your acquaintance in the large patent leather ulster," and by this he meant the crocodile, who'll jerk you into yonder limpid stream before you can say Jack Robinson. This is the way the bi-coloured python rock snakes always talk. Then the elephant's child sat back on his little haunches and pulled and pulled and pulled, and his nose began to stretch. And the crocodile floundered into the water, making it all creamy with great sweeps of his tail, and he pulled and pulled and pulled. And the elephant's child's nose kept on stretching, and the elephant's child spread all his little four legs and pulled and pulled and pulled, and his nose kept on stretching. And the crocodile thrashed his tail like an oar, and he pulled and pulled and pulled, and at each pull the elephant's child's nose grew longer and longer, and it hurt him hideous. Then the elephant's child felt his legs slipping, and he said through his nose, which was now nearly 5 feet long, "This is too much for me." Then the bi-coloured python rock snake came down from the bank and knotted himself in a double clove hitch round the elephant's child's hind legs, and said, "Rash and inexperienced traveller, we will now seriously devote ourselves to a little high tension, because if we do not, it is my impression that yonder self-propelling man-of-war with the armour-plated upper deck," and by this, O best beloved, he meant the crocodile, "will permanently violate your future career. I am sorry for the plosion. I am very sorry. Anyway, I hope your ears are okay. That is the way all bi-coloured python rock snakes always talk." So he pulled, and the elephant's child pulled, and the crocodile pulled, but the elephant's child and the bi-coloured python rock snake pulled hardest, and at last the crocodile let go of the elephant's child's nose with a plop that you could hear all up and down the Limpopo. Then the elephant's child sat down most hard and sudden. But first he was careful to say "thank you" to the bi-coloured python rock snake, and next he was kind to his poor pulled nose, and wrapped it all up in cool banana leaves, and hung it in the great grey-green greasy Limpopo to cool. "What are you doing that for?" said the bi-coloured python rock snake. "Excuse me," said the elephant's child, "but my nose is badly out of shape, and I am waiting for it to shrink." "Then you will have to wait a long time," said the bi-coloured python rock snake. "Some people do not know what is good for them." The elephant's child sat there for 3 days waiting for his nose to shrink, but it never grew any shorter, and besides it made him squint, for, oh best beloved, you'll see and understand that the crocodile had pulled it out into a really truly trunk, same as all elephants have today. At the end of the 3rd day, a fly came and stung him on the shoulder, and before he knew what he was doing, he lifted up his trunk and hit that fly dead with the end of it. "Vantage number 1, said the bi-coloured python rock snake. "You couldn't have done that with a mere smear nose. Try and eat a little now." before he thought what he was doing, the elephant's child put out his trunk and plucked a large bundle of grass, dusted it clean against his forelegs, and stuffed it into his own mouth. "Vantage number 2, said the bi-coloured python rock snake. "You couldn't have done that with a mere smear nose. Don't you think the sun is very hot here?" "It is," said the elephant's child, and before he thought what he was doing, he slooped up a sloop of mud from the banks of the great grey-green greasy Limpopo and slapped it on his head, where it made a cool, sloopy, sloshy mudcap all directly behind his ears. "Vantage number 3, said the bi-coloured python rock snake. "You couldn't have done that with a mere smear nose. Now, how do you feel about being spanked again?" "Excuse me," said the elephant's child, "but I should not like it at all." "How would you like to spank somebody?" said the bi-coloured python rock snake. "I should like it very much indeed," said the elephant's child. "Well," said the bi-coloured python rock snake, "you'll find that new nose of yours very useful to spank people with." "Thank you," said the elephant's child. "I'll remember that. And now I think I'll go home to all my dear families and try." So the elephant's child went home across Africa, frisking and whisking his trunk. When he wanted fruit to eat, he pulled fruit down from a tree instead of waiting for it to fall as he used to do. When he wanted grass, he plucked grass up from the ground instead of going on his knees as he used to do. When the flies bit him, he broke off the branch of a tree and used it as a fly whisk. And he made himself a new, cool, slushy, squashy mud cap whenever the sun was hot. When he felt lonely walking through Africa, he sang to himself down his trunk, and the noise was louder than several brass bands. He went especially out of his way to find a broad hippopotamus. She was no relation of his, and he spanked her very hard to make sure that the bi-coloured python rock snake had spoken the truth about his new trunk. The rest of the time, he picked up the melon rinds that he had dropped on his way to the Limpopo, for he was a tidy pachyderm. One dark evening, he came back to all his dear families, and he coiled up his trunk and said, "How do you do?" They were very glad to see him, and immediately said, "Come here and be spanked for your satiable curiosity." "Pooh," said the elephant's child. "I don't think you peoples know anything about spanking. But I do, and I'll show you." Then he uncurled his trunk and knocked two of his dear brothers head over heels. "Oh, bananas," said they. "Where did you learn that trick? And what have you taught to your nose?" "I got a new one from the crocodile on the banks of the great grey-green greasy Limpopo River," said the elephant's child. "I asked him what he had for dinner, and he gave me this to keep." "It looks very ugly," said his hairy uncle the baboon. "It does," said the elephant's child. but it's very useful. And he picked up his hairy uncle the baboon by one hairy leg and shoved him into a hornet's nest. Then that bad elephant child spanked all his dear families for a long time, till they were very warm and greatly astonished. He pulled out his tall ostrich aunt's tail feathers, and he caught his tall uncle the giraffe by the hind leg and dragged him through a thorn bush. And he shouted at his broad aunt the hippopotamus and blew bubbles into her ear when she was sleeping in the water after meals. But he never let anyone touch Cola Cola Bird. At last, things grew so exciting that his dear families went off one by one in a hurry to the banks of the great grey-green greasy Limpopo River, all set about with fever trees, to borrow new noses from the crocodile. When they came back, nobody spanked anybody any more, and ever since that day, oh best beloved, all the elephants you will ever see, besides all those that you won't, have trunks precisely like the trunk of this satiable elephant's child. I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and where and when, and how and why and who. I sent them over land and sea. I sent them east and west. But after they have worked for me, I give them all a rest. I let them rest from 9 till 5, for I am busy then, as well as breakfast, lunch and tea, for they are hungry men. But different folk have different views. I know a person small. She keeps 10 million serving men who get no rest at all. She sends them abroad on her own affairs from the second she opens her eyes. 1 million hows, 2 million wheres, and 7 million whys. I like that story. It's very fun to read. I think this was my first Just So story I read as a kid as well. Yes, and I think it's this story that made me decide to read the whole book. Yes. Oh, hello Eden. How are you doing? Oh, Jestulence. Yeah, I have no idea if Hijus is a real word or if it's just a typo. I'm gonna search that up now. Huh. Oh, you guys can see my Chrome screen as well. That's handy. Yes, okay. Oh. Huh. I guess it means hideous. In like from earlier English, I suppose. Yeah, when I read that, I thought it was a typo, but I had no idea what that word was supposed to be, so I just decided to read it anyway. But apparently not. Most interesting indeed. I'm also a fan of this bi-coloured python rock snake. Very interesting guy. Dubious gentleman. Oh, hello Neurocracy. Yes, I think that was pretty cute too. Also, I did not know it was possible to watch without video, but, well, now I know. So thank you for enlightening me about this new function of Twitch that I never knew about. Hello, Mr. Uwu2. Thank you for the follow. Hope you're having a cozy time. Before we move on to the next story, I would like to apologise, first of all, for the plosive somewhere in the middle of the elephant's child reading. And, oh, he's kind of a jerk. But then he helps, and then he's like, go home and be with your family. I know, right? What a character. Oof, I'm gonna turn my hair because it's very, very hot. Spiteful little elephant. Before we move on to the sing-song of Old Man Kangaroo, I would like to apologise for not having read it beforehand, so I'm going to give it a quick scan through the story now, just to make sure I know what's going on, and just to make sure there aren't any rude words in it, just like the story that I skipped. I skipped the story called, what's it called again? I skipped this one, How the Leopard Got His Spots, because it contained a very rude word, and I didn't want to show that on stream. But if you're interested, you can read it yourself. But yeah, I'm gonna go through this story really quickly just to make sure I know what's going on, and in the meantime I'm going to be trying to make some ASMR sounds for you guys so you don't get bored. Yes. Oh, this seems to be a normal story so far. Let's see. I don't remember reading this. Oh, that is a lot of running. That is a whole lot of running. Speaking of running, I recently joined a thingy at my university, some kind of virtual run thing where you have to submit your running records, and then if you accumulate a certain distance, then you get a little shiny medal. And I really wanted a medal because that would be my first ever sports medal that I ever received, apart from one I received back when I was, I think, 12 or 13, where I was basically just a backup member for a sports competition at my school. I didn't do shit, but I got the medal anyway. Yeah. Never been really good at sports. I tried doing basketball at one point and netball, but since I kind of sucked at it, no one really wanted to be in the same team as me, and that was kind of demoralising, so then I stopped. I do enjoy a good jog though. Jogging is nice. Okay, I think I got too distracted from doing pop sounds and talking about my inability of doing sports, that I didn't really wasn't really paying attention to reviewing the story. But I think I did not catch anything rude or sensitive in the story, so I think I'm going to read it now. The sing-song of Old Man Kangaroo. Not always was the kangaroo as now we do behold him, but a different animal with 4 short legs. He was grey, and he was woolly, and his pride was inordinate. He danced on an outcrop in the middle of Australia, and he went to little god Car. He went to Car at 6 before breakfast, saying, "Make me different from all other animals by 5 this afternoon." Up jumped Car from his seat on the sand flat and shouted, "Go away." He was grey, and he was woolly, and his pride was inordinate. He danced on a rock ledge in the middle of Australia, and he went to the middle god, King. He went to King at 8 after breakfast, saying, "Make me different from all other animals. Make me also wonderfully popular by 5 this afternoon." Up jumped King from his burrow in the spinifex and shouted, "Go away." He was grey, and he was woolly, and his pride was inordinate. He danced on a sandbank in the middle of Australia, and he went to the big god Kong. He went to Kong at 10 before dinner time, saying, "Make me different from all other animals. Make me popular and wonderfully run after by 5 this afternoon." Up jumped Kong from his bath in the salt pan and shouted, "Yes, I will." Kong called Dingo, Yellow Dog Dingo, always hungry, dusty in the sunshine, and showed him Kangaroo. Kong said, "Dingo, wake up, Dingo. Do you see that gentleman dancing on an ash pit? He wants to be popular and very truly run after. Dingo, make him so." Up jumped Dingo, Yellow Dog Dingo, and said, "What, that cat rabbit?" Off ran Dingo, Yellow Dog Dingo, always hungry, grinning like a coal scuttle, ran after Kangaroo. Off went the proud Kangaroo on his 4 little legs like a bunny. This, oh beloved of mine, ends the first part of the tale. He ran through the desert, he ran through the mountains, he ran through the salt pans, he ran through the reed beds, he ran through the blue gums, he ran through the spinifex, he ran till his front legs ached. He had to. Still ran the dingo, Yellow Dog Dingo, always hungry, grinning like a rat trap, never getting nearer, never getting farther. Ran after the Kangaroo. He had to. Still ran the Kangaroo, Old Man Kangaroo. He ran through the ti trees, he ran through the mulga, he ran through the long grass, he ran through the short grass, he ran through the tropics of the Capricorn and Cancer. He ran till his hind legs ached. He had to. Still ran Dingo, Yellow Dog Dingo, hungrier and hungrier, grinning like a horse collar, never getting nearer, never getting farther. And they came to the Wollongong River. Now, there wasn't any bridge, and there wasn't any ferry boat, and the Kangaroo didn't know how to get over. So he stood on his legs and hopped. He had to. He hopped through the flinders. He hopped through the cinders. He hopped through the deserts in the middle of Australia. He hopped like a kangaroo. First he hopped 1 yard. Then he hopped 3 yards. Then he hopped 5 yards. His legs growing stronger, his legs growing longer. He hadn't any time for rest or refreshment, and he wanted them very much. Still ran Dingo, Yellow Dog Dingo, very much bewildered, very much hungry, and wondering what in the world or out of it made Old Man Kangaroo hop. For he hopped like a cricket, like a pea in a saucepan, or a new rubber ball on a nursery floor. He had to. He tucked up his front legs. He hopped on his hind legs. He stuck out his tail for a balance weight behind him, and he hopped through the Darling Downs. He had to. Still ran Dingo, Tired Dog Dingo, hungrier and hungrier, very much bewildered and wondering when in the world or out of it would Old Man Kangaroo stop. Then came Kong from his bath in the salt pans and said, "It's 5 o'clock." Down sat Dingo, poor Dog Dingo, always hungry, dusky in the sunshine, hung out his tongue and howled. Down sat Kangaroo, Old Man Kangaroo, stuck out his tail like a milking stool behind him and said, "Thank goodness that's finished." Then said Kong, who is always a gentleman, "Why aren't you grateful to Yellow Dog Dingo? Why don't you thank him for all he has done for you?" Then said Kangaroo, tired old Kangaroo, "He's chased me out of the homes of my childhood. He's chased me out of my regular meal times. He's altered my shape so I'll never get it back. And he's played Old Scratch with my legs." Then said Kong, "Perhaps I'm mistaken, but didn't you ask me to make you different from all other animals, as well as to make you very truly sought after. And now it is 5 o'clock. Yes, said the kangaroo. I wish that I hadn't. I thought you would do it by charms and incantations, but this is a practical joke. Joke, said Kong from his bath in the blue gums. Say that again and I'll whistle up Dingo and run your hind legs off. No, said the kangaroo. I must apologize. Legs are legs, and you needn't alter them so far as I'm concerned. I only meant to explain to your lordliness that I've had nothing to eat since morning, and I'm very empty indeed. Yes, said Dingo, Yellow Dog Dingo. I am just in the same situation. I've made him different from all other animals. But what may I have for my tea? Then said Kong from his bath in a salt pan, come and ask me about it tomorrow, because I'm going to wash. So they were left in the middle of Australia, Old Man Kangaroo and the Yellow Dog Dingo, and each said, That's your fault. This is the mouth-filling song of the race that was run by a boomer. Run in a single best, only event of its kind. Started by Big God Kong from Warika Borigaruma. Old Man Kangaroo first, Yellow Dog Dingo behind. Kangaroo bounded away, his back legs working like pistons, bounded from morning till dark, 25 feet to a bound. Yellow Dog Dingo lay, like a yellow cloud in the distance, much too busy to bark. My, but they covered the ground. Nobody knows where they went, or followed the track that they flew in, for that continent hadn't been given a name. They ran 30 degrees from Torres Straits to the Lewin. Look at the atlas, please. And they ran back as they came. Supposing you could trot from Adelaide to the Pacific for an afternoon's run, half what these gentlemen did, you would feel rather hot, but your legs would develop terrific. Yes, my importunate son, you'd be a marvellous kid. So, that was this story about the kangaroo. It is, how should I say it? I prefer the other stories that we've read better than this one. But this is still a cute story. I personally think this one was less fun to read aloud. Yeah, it's just not, it just doesn't feel as nice. Some of the other stories have like verses that just slip off the tongue, you know. Yeah, it wasn't bad, just not as great. Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's still a cute story though. Also, I had no idea how to read the gods' names. I tried googling it just now, but I found nothing, so yeah. Oh. God, it is very, very hot here. You know, I say that every stream, but yes, it is very hot. Next one is about armadillos. I think they're very cute. Cute little things. Anyway, I think we can do one more story before I end the stream. But same as the last one, I haven't really read this yet, so I'm just gonna scan through it quickly just to make sure there's nothing strange in this story, nothing rude. They've invaded your state? Or is that a good thing? Or is that a bad thing? I've never really seen an armadillo in real life. I've only seen clips of them on the internet and on TV, and they seem really cute. But I suppose if they are everywhere, it would be a bit annoying, right? They tear things up. Oh god. Oh god. They are a lot more violent than I had imagined from my very limited knowledge of armadillos. Alright. Going to quickly scan through this story. Quickly. If you don't mind, you could also help me try and pick out any rude things in the story if you happen to see any. Would really appreciate that. Or I don't know, grab yourself a toilet break or something. Yes. They will shred your yard. Vegetable gardens, flower beds. That is... oh god. What? Oh. Wow. Okay. You know, I thought they were... I don't know... cute little... perhaps not cuddly, but cute little round creatures. But apparently they are a lot more aggressive than I thought they were. Yeah, I know, right? They look quite harmless. Look like innocent little guys. You scoop water with your paw, you uncoil it with a hedgehog. What? I'm so confused. Oh. When you were young, it was basically unheard of to see them around here. That's odd. Were they like introduced to your state via some kind of, I don't know, ecological program or something? Or like trafficking or something? Migrated naturally. Oh, that is interesting. Migrated naturally. I was not aware that, you know, armadillo migration could happen within such a short time span. Not that I knew much about armadillos to begin with, but that is interesting. Oh god. if you guys are hearing that banging noise, I'm pretty sure it's the wind. It's very it's very windy and it's making my door rattle. I'm sorry about that. I don't know if it's gonna be pleasant sounding on your end or not. Warming temperatures leading to milder winters. Oh, I see. Oh, speaking of ghosts, no, I think ghosts is a very interesting topic, spirits and all that. Because one time my friend asked me out of the blue, like, do you believe in ghosts? And I started thinking. I thought, like, okay, since, like, if you were to believe in them as sort of physical objects, right? Then you really wouldn't want them to be a thing. Because ghosts, I think, are generally considered to be invisible, right? And they walk through walls and stuff, right? So physically that would mean they don't really interact with anything. Kind of like neutrinos, they don't even interact with photons because you can't see them. And that would mean if they don't interact with photons, then that would mean they can't see things, because in order to see things, it's basically like interactions with photons that allow you to see things. So then I thought, okay, if there are ghosts and they're basically pretty much living in limbo or something because they really don't interact with anything physical, then that's rather horrible. It's like being trapped in this world but not being able to do anything or even see anything, or when I think that's rather sad. So I really hope that ghosts aren't real, because I do not want to become one when I die. Or maybe I'm and then I thought perhaps I'm overthinking, I mean, if it's a spiritual thing, then it shouldn't be governed by physical laws, right? It's kind of like it's like a metaphysical thing. It shouldn't be governed by physical laws. Well, anyway, I think if I were to die, I would rather just, like, disappear from the world instead of going to some sort of afterlife or living on as a ghost or whatever. Living for eternity is a very scary concept. Oh, you're a bit of an occultist. At the same time, you use physical laws to identify the activity. Oh, is it like those, it's like magnetic things? I think I've heard of them, like magnetic things, and then apparently they're supposed to, ghosts are supposed to disturb the magnetic field or something. Yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting. Personally, I don't think I've had any encounters with ghosts. So I don't really know what to think about them. Monitoring temperature or electromagnetic waves. Oh, okay. Yeah. That is interesting. Oh. Getting back to, just going through the story. Just gonna give it a quick scan through. It seems like a pretty long story. Oh, not really. There you go. Okay, it seems like a normal story. Normal, family-friendly, non-offensive story. Alright, I'm going to drink some water and let's get into it, shall we? The beginning of the Armadillos. This, O best beloved, is another story of the high and far off times. In the very middle of those times was a stickly prickly hedgehog, and he lived on the banks of the turbid Amazon, eating shelly snails and things. And he had a friend, a slow solid tortoise, who lived on the banks of the turbid Amazon, eating green lettuces and things. And so that was all right, best beloved, do you see? But also, at the same time, in those high and far off times, there was a painted jaguar, and he lived on the banks of the turbid Amazon too, and he ate everything that he could catch. When he could not catch deer or monkeys, he would eat frogs and beetles, and when he could not catch frogs and beetles, he went to his mother jaguar, and she taught him how to eat hedgehogs and tortoises. She said to him ever so many times, graciously waving her tail, "My son, when you find a hedgehog, you must drop him into the water, and then he will uncoil. And when you catch a tortoise, you must scoop him out of his shell with your paw." And so that was all right, best beloved. One beautiful night on the banks of the turbid Amazon, painted jaguar found stickly prickly hedgehog and slow solid tortoise sitting under the trunk of a fallen tree. They could not run away, and so stickly prickly curled himself up into a ball because he was a hedgehog, and slow solid tortoise drew in his head and feet into his shell as far as they would go, because he was a tortoise. And so that was all right, best beloved, do you see? "Now attend to me," said painted jaguar, "because this is very important. My mother said that when I meet a hedgehog, I am to drop him into the water, and then he will uncoil. And when I meet a tortoise, I am to scoop him out of his shell with my paw. Now, which of you is a hedgehog, and which is a tortoise? Because to save my spots I can't tell." "Are you sure of what your mummy told you?" said stickly prickly hedgehog. "Are you quite sure? Perhaps she said that when you uncoil a tortoise you must shell him out of the water with a scoop, and when you paw a hedgehog you must drop him on the shell." "Are you sure of what your mummy told you?" said the slow and solid tortoise. "Are you quite sure? Perhaps she said that when you water a hedgehog, you must drop him into your paw, and when you meet a tortoise, you must shell him till he uncoils." "I don't think it was at all like that," said the painted jaguar, but he felt a little puzzled. "But please, say it again more distinctly." "When you scoop water with your paw, you uncoil it with a hedgehog," said Stickly Prickly. "Remember that, because it's important."
But,
said the hedgehog,
when you pour your meat, you drop it into a tortoise with a scoop. Why can't you understand?
You're making my spots ache, said the painted jaguar. And besides, I didn't want your advice at all. I only wanted to know which of you is hedgehog and which is tortoise. I shan't tell you, said Stickly Prickly, but you can scoop me out of my shell if you like. Aha, said Painted Jaguar. Now I know you're tortoise. You thought I wouldn't. Now I will. Painted Jaguar darted out of his paddy paw just as Stickly Prickly curled himself up. And of course, Jaguar's paddy paw was just filled with prickles. Worse than that, he knocked Stickly Prickly away and away into the woods and the bushes, where it was too dark to find him. Then he put his paddy paw into his mouth, and of course the prickles hurt him worse than ever. As soon as he could speak, he said, "Now I know he isn't tortoise at all, but..." Then he scratched his head with his unprickly paw. "How do I know that this other is tortoise?"
"But I am tortoise,"
said Slow and Solid.
"Your mother was quite right. She said you were to scoop me out of my shell with your paw. Begin."
"You didn't say she said that a minute ago," said Painted Jaguar, sucking the prickles out of his paddy paw. "You said she said something quite different."
"Well, suppose you say that I said that she said something quite different. I don't see that it makes any difference. Because if she said what you said, I said she said, it's just the same as if I said what she said she said. On the other hand, if you think she said that you were to uncoil me with a scoop instead of pouring me into drops with a shell, I can't help that, can I?"
"But you said you wanted to be scooped out of your shell with my paw," said the Painted Jaguar.
"If you think again, you'll find that I didn't say anything of the kind. I said that your mother said you were to scoop me out of my shell,"
said Slow and Solid. "What will happen if I do?" said the Jaguar, most sniffly and most cautious.
"I don't know, because I've never been scooped out of my shell before. But I tell you truly, if you want to see me swim away, you've only got to drop me into the water."
"I don't believe it," said Painted Jaguar. "You've mixed up all the things my mother told me to do with the things you asked me whether I was sure that she didn't say, till I don't know whether I'm on my head or my painted tail. And now you come and tell me something I can understand, and it makes me more mixy than before. My mother told me that I was to drop one of you two into the water, and as you seem so anxious to be dropped, I think you don't want to be dropped. So jump into the turbid Amazon and be quick about it."
"I warn you that your mummy won't be pleased. Don't tell her I didn't tell you,
said Slow Solid. If you say another word about what my mother said, the Jaguar answered, but he had not finished the sentence before Slow and Solid quietly dived into the turbid Amazon, swam underwater for a long way, and came out on the bank where Stickly Prickly was waiting for him. That was a very narrow escape, said Stickly Prickly. I don't rip Painted Jaguar. What did you tell him that you were?
I told him truthfully that I was a truthful tortoise, but he wouldn't believe it, and he made me jump into the river to see if I was. And I was, and he is surprised. Now he's gone to tell his mummy. Listen to him.
They could hear the Painted Jaguar roaring up and down among the trees and the bushes by the side of the turbid Amazon till his mummy came. Son, son, said his mother ever so many times, graciously waving her tail. What have you been doing that you shouldn't have done?
I tried to scoop something that said it wanted to be scooped out of its shell with my paw, and my paw is full of prickles,
said Painted Jaguar. Son, son, said his mother ever so many times, graciously waving her tail. By the prickles in your paddy paw, I see that must have been a hedgehog. You should have dropped him into the water.
I did that to the other thing, and he said he was a tortoise, and I didn't believe him, and it was quite true, and he has dived under the turbid Amazon, and he won't come up again, and I haven't anything at all to eat, and I think we had better find lodging somewhere else. They are too clever on the turbid Amazon for poor me.
Son, son, said his mother ever so many times, graciously waving her tail. Now, attend to me and remember what I say. A hedgehog curls himself up into a ball, and his prickles stick out every which way at once. By this you may know the hedgehog. I don't like this old lady one bit, said Stickly Prickly under the shadow of a large leaf. I wonder what else she knows.
A tortoise can't curl himself up, Mother Jaguar went on, ever so many times, graciously waving her tail.
He only draws his head and legs into his shell. By this you may know the tortoise.
I don't like this old lady at all, said Slow and Solid Tortoise. Even Painted Jaguar can't forget those directions. It's a great pity that you can't swim, Stickly Prickly.
Don't talk to me, said Stickly Prickly. Just think how much better it would be if you could curl up. This is a mess. Listen to Painted Jaguar. Painted Jaguar was sitting on the banks of the turbid Amazon, sucking prickles out of his paw and saying to himself,
Can't curl but can swim. Slow Solid, that's him. Curls up but can't swim. Stickly Prickly, that's him.
He'll never forget that this month of Sundays, said Stickly Prickly. Hold up my chin slow and solid. I'm going to try to learn to swim. It may be useful.
Excellent,
said Slow and Solid, and he held up Stickly Prickly's chin, while Stickly Prickly kicked in the waters of the turbid Amazon.
You'll make a fine swimmer yet,
said Slow and Solid.
Now, if you can unlace my back blades a little, I'll see what I can do towards curling up. It may be useful.
Stickly Prickly helped to unlace Tortoise's back plates, so that by twisting and straining, Slow and Solid actually managed to curl up a tiddy wee bit. Excellent, said Stickly Prickly. But I shouldn't do any more just now. It's making you black in the face. Kindly lead me into the water once again, and I'll practice that side stroke which you say is so easy. And so Stickly Prickly practiced, and Slow Solid swam alongside.
Excellent,
said Slow and Solid.
A little more practice will make you a regular whale. Now, if I may trouble you to unlace my back and front plates 2 holes more, I'll try that fascinating bend that you say is so easy. Won't Painted Jaguar be surprised?
Excellent, said Stickly Prickly, all wet from the turbid Amazon. I declare I shouldn't know you were from one of my own family. 2 holes, I think you said. A little more expression, please, and don't grunt quite so much, or Painted Jaguar might hear us. When you're finished, I want to try that long dive which you say is so easy. Won't Painted Jaguar be surprised? And so Stickly Prickly dived, and Slow and Solid dived alongside.
Excellent,
said Slow and Solid.
A little more attention to holding your breath, and you will be able to keep house at the bottom of the turbid Amazon. Now, I'll try that exercise of putting my hind legs round my ears, which you say is so peculiarly comfortable. Won't Painted Jaguar be surprised?
Excellent, said Stickly Prickly. But it's straining your back plates a little. They're all overlapping now, instead of lying side by side.
Oh, that's the result of exercise,
said Slow and Solid.
I've noticed that your prickles seem to be melting into one another, and that you're growing to look rather more like a pine cone, and less like a chestnut burr than you used to.
Am I? Said Stickly Prickly. That comes from my soaking in the water. Oh, won't Painted Jaguar be surprised? They went on with their exercises, each helping the other, till morning came. And when the sun was high, they rested and dried themselves. Then they saw that they were both of them quite different from what they had been.
Stickly Prickly,
said Tortoise after breakfast.
I am not what I was yesterday, but I think that I may yet amuse Painted Jaguar.
That was the very thing I was thinking just now, said Stickly Prickly. I think scales are a tremendous improvement on Prickles, to say nothing of being able to swim. Oh, won't Painted Jaguar be surprised? Let's go and find him. By and by, they found Painted Jaguar, still nursing his paddy paw that had been hurt the night before. He was so astonished that he fell 3 times backward over his own painted tail without stopping. Good morning, said Stickly Prickly. And how is your dear gracious mummy this morning?
She is quite well, thank you,
said Painted Jaguar.
But you must forgive me if I do not at this precise moment recall your name.
That's unkind of you, said Stickly Prickly. Seeing that this time yesterday you tried to scoop me out of my shell with your paw.
But you hadn't any shell. It was all just prickles,
said Painted Jaguar.
I know it was. Just look at my paw. You told me to drop into the turbid Amazon and be drowned,
said Slow Solid.
Why are you so rude and forgetful today?
Don't you remember what your mother told you? Said Stickly Prickly. Can't curl but can swim, Stickly Prickly, that's him. Curls up but can't swim, Slow Solid, that's him. Then they both curled themselves up and rolled round and round Painted Jaguar till his eyes turned truly cartwheels in his head. Then he went to fetch his mother.
Mother,
he said,
there are 2 new animals in the woods today, and the one that you said couldn't swim, swims, and the one that you said couldn't curl up, curls. And they've gone shares in their prickles, I think, because both of them are scaly all over instead of one being smooth and the other very prickly. And besides that, they are rolling round and round in circles, and I don't feel comfy.
Son, said Mother Jaguar ever so many times, graciously waving her tail. A hedgehog is a hedgehog, and can't be anything but a hedgehog. And a tortoise is a tortoise, and can never be anything else.
But it isn't a hedgehog, and it isn't a tortoise. It's a little bit of both, and I don't know its proper name.
Nonsense, said Mother Jaguar. Everything has its proper name. I should call it Armadillo till I found out the real one, and I should leave it alone. So Painted Jaguar did as he was told, especially about leaving them alone. But the curious thing is that, from that day to this, O best beloved, no one on the banks of the turbid Amazon has ever called Stickly Prickly and Slow Solid anything except Armadillo. There are hedgehogs and tortoises in other places, of course. There are some in my garden. But the real old and clever kind, with their scales lying lippity-lappity one over the other, like pine cone scales, that lived on the banks of the turbid Amazon in the high and far up days, are always called armadillos, because they were so clever. So that, all right, best beloved, do you see? I've never sailed the Amazon. I've never reached Brazil. But the Don and Magdalena, they can go there when they will. Yes, weekly from Southampton, great steamers white and gold go rolling down to Rio. Roll down to Rio. And I'd like to roll to Rio some day before I'm old. I've never seen a jaguar, nor yet an armadillo. Dilloing in his armour, and I suppose I never will, unless I go to Rio, these wonders to behold. Roll down to Rio, roll really down to Rio. Oh, I'd love to roll to Rio some day before I'm old. Oh, I think that's enough stories for today. This story was a little bit long. I'd prefer if it wasn't so long, but yeah, it's a pretty good one, I agree. It's pretty imaginative. Yes. Yeah, it's a bit long. It's a bit long, isn't it? Anyway, yeah. Hello, shrimpful VTubers. Welcome to the stream. I see you're having a cozy time in that little blanket of yours. And thank you for the follow as well. I really appreciate it. Also, thank you to Ignifu Gowo and Key Official 400 for the follows. Really appreciate it. My tortoise voice was quite on point. Thank you, Neurocracy. I also really like my tortoise voice. I'm not very good with doing voices, so I still need a lot more practice. But I think I'm pretty happy with my tortoise voice. I hope it wasn't too annoying doing all those different voices. I know some of them sound really similar, but my range of voices for now is really rather limited. Well, so those were another 3 stories from the Just So Stories collection. I hope I can stream again next week, but I'm not so sure if I can. I'll let you guys know again on Wednesday, I believe. Yep, I'll let you guys know again on Wednesday on Discord and Twitter as always. Thank you for all the new follows. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you all again next stream. Alright. Right, I'll be ending the stream now. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Jestulence. Thank you. I also really enjoy streaming with you guys, being so supportive and all. Yes, alright. And for the newcomers, remember to either join my Discord server or follow me on Twitter, or both, to get schedule updates every Wednesday. And I hope to see you guys again soon. Well, bye bye. Have a nice day. Thank you, Neurocracy. Bye bye.